As Far as My Feet Will Carry Me is a German war film released in the year 2001. The plot of the film follows a German soldier, Clemens Farrell, who becomes a prisoner of war after World War II. However, he successfully escapes the Siberian camp and covers a long, dangerous, and petrifying journey back to Germany to reunite with his family. The film starts in Bayern, August 1944, with German soldiers boarding a train. Clemens Farrell, a German soldier, is seen waiting for his wife and daughter at the station to bid them farewell. Finally, his wife arrives, informing him that she's pregnant with a second baby. Clemens is in happy tears and hugs her tightly. Before boarding the train, he promises his wife and daughter that he will send them a postcard and will be back for Christmas. After Clemens boarded the train, the scene transitions to July 1945, when he's captured by the Soviets. A courthouse is shown where Clemens is being charged with violating laws and is held guilty for crimes against the partisans. He's sentenced to 25 years of forced labor and transported as part of a large group of prisoners to a labor camp in the Siberian region of the Soviet Union. On their way on a train, the prisoners are suffering from starvation and freezing to death. The scene cuts to October 1945 when Clemens' little girl Lisa receives a letter and races to her mother inside the church to show her. Clemens' wife, who's desperately waiting to hear from her husband, is heartbroken to read the letter, informing her that there's no information about the Russian court-martial. Lisa feels sad seeing her mother suffering alone with her and her newborn baby brother. She prays the Hail Mary to bring her father back home soon. Meanwhile, on the train, the prisoners are contemplating where they've reached up till now. Among them, Dan Horn, who was at the divisional headquarters during the war, knows about the geography and explains to the prisoners that the camp is way too far and it will take ages to reach there. The prisoners become frustrated and start arguing. Finally, the train is stopped at a station and the prisoners that died due to starvation are carried out. The remaining survivors are brutally treated and given limited pieces of wood to sustain in the freezing atmosphere. They are boarded back on the train and given minute quantities of disgusting food. A young prisoner gives up hope and prays that he must get shot, but Clemens keeps up his spirits high. Clemens keeps looking at a photograph of his wife and daughter to keep him sane. The next morning, the huge cross-continent railway journey comes to an end, and the prisoners are taken on a long trek on foot. On their way, multiple prisoners die as they were running on minimal food and couldn't tolerate the cold. In the next scene, Cape Diznev prison camp is shown where Lieutenant Kamenev is assigned the responsibility of the camp security by the major. Finally, after the days-long walk, the prisoners reach the camp in 1946. Dr. Stauffer is the camp doctor who's medically treating the prisoners. Seeing the adverse conditions of the prisoners, he fears that an epidemic can break out soon if the patients are not treated aptly. Despite the prisoners' deteriorating conditions, the cruel commander, Lieutenant Kamenev, forces them to stand in the freezing snow to evaluate who's healthy and fit for work. During the inspection, Kamenev finds a prisoner hiding his mother's letter in his coat. Kamenev becomes furious and strips the prisoner, letting him freeze to death. Clemens tries to protect his comrade by offering him his coat, but Kamenev does not allow it. All the prisoners are then sent inside a mine and completely stripped. Their heads and bodies are shaved, after which their clothes are returned and they're put to work. Meanwhile, Clemens' wife visits the National Committee of Free Germany to gain any kind of information about Clemens, but sadly they have nothing on him. The receptionist informs her that the new negotiations with the Russians will take place in the autumn, enkindling hope in her heart. Another year passes by, and it's now 1947. Clemens and the other prisoners are tirelessly working and are fed a small quantity of food to keep them alive. 2 more years go by, and in 1949, while working in the mine, Dan Horn dies after the mine collapses on him. Later, Clemens is summoned by Lieutenant Kamenev, who asks him to work on a machine, as Clemens is a mechanic. Clemens spends the entire day working on the machine. At night, when the machine starts working, he takes the opportunity to run away, but is caught at the end. As punishment, he's locked in solitary confinement by Lieutenant Kamenev. After completing his punishment, Kamenev informs Clemens that the Union of the Soviet Republics had an agreement with the United States of North America that even if any prisoner manages to escape, they'd send him back. Moreover, he warns Clemens that he should not attempt to escape again. When Clemens enters the mine, his comrades brutally welcome him, severely injuring him in the process since they were not fed for 5 days on behalf of Clemens' mistake. Dr. Stauffer arrives to check Clemens and berates him for attempting to run away. Clemens begs Stauffer to write a letter to his family. Meanwhile, Lisa, who is now grown up, keeps staring at the map and hopes to find out where her father is. In the infirmary, Stauffer informs Clemens that he can run away if he's properly equipped with the right clothes, sturdy shoes, and a compass, and offers to help. In the evening, Lieutenant Kamenev orders to release Clemens from the infirmary. Seeing Kamenev's cruel behavior, Stauffer asks Clemens to come see him at night. When Clemens goes to see him, Stauffer shows a map drawn by Danhorn that can help Clemens reach the river. But just then, Kamenev knocks at the door, so Stauffer quickly hides Clemens in a stall. Kamenev chats with Stauffer randomly for a while, after which he leaves. Stauffer gives Clemens warm clothes and a loaded pistol and explains where he has hidden supplies for a long journey. When Clemens asks him why he has everything pre-planned, Stauffer tells him that he himself had planned to escape, but 2 months ago, he found out that he's terminally ill with cancer. Stauffer then gives him a box with his wife's address carved on it and asks him to visit her and tell her that her husband died. He also guides Clemens that the soldiers will look for him in the west, so he must go north to the sea and along the coast. Finally, Clemens evades Kamenev and manages to run away successfully after taking the supplies that Stauffer told him to. Soon, Kamenev discovers that Clemens is missing and goes straight to Stauffer to inquire about him. But before he could interrogate Stauffer, he already killed himself by overdosing. Clemens heads north to avoid the guards and keeps walking into the bleak wilderness. Meanwhile, in the mine, Kamenev stops providing the prisoners with food, punishing them on behalf of Clemens. When the prisoners protest against it, Kamenev shoots one of them straight in the head. The patrol team returns after combing the west for 5 days continuously and reports to Kamenev that they found nothing. Kamenev becomes enraged and orders them to keep looking. The major of the camp is disappointed with Kamenev and wants to demote him. Kamenev tries to defend himself, but to no avail. On the other hand, Clemens manages to reach Lena and bows down to God, thanking him for his help. After continuously walking in the snow for days, Clemens ultimately runs out of supplies given to him by Stauffer. He begs God to show him a way to get food. However, after walking without food for multiple days, Clemens loses all his energy and falls to the ground. But just then, he spots a seal near him. Using the gun given to him by Stauffer, he aims at the seal from afar but misses the shot. In the process of chasing the seal, he risks his life and injures his leg, but ultimately shoots the seal at the right spot. He exclaims with joy and then uses the seal for food. He also uses the fat of the seal to treat his leg wound. Later, he keeps wandering across North Siberia and is ecstatic to see a tree. Meanwhile, in the camp, Kamenev is still concerned about Clemens, although it's been 2 months since his escape. He orders a soldier to inform all the stations within a radius of 1,000 kilometers to keep looking for Clemens. One night while Clemens is asleep somewhere in Siberia, he meets 2 hunters and gold diggers, Anastasis and Semyon. Clemens flips out seeing them and threatens to shoot them. However, the prospectors assure him that they have nothing to do with him and are just looking for gold or something to hunt. They inform Clemens about an expected snowstorm that's about to approach and offer to take him along with them to a safe place. However, Clemens refuses their help as he feels suspicious of them. As expected, the snowstorm hits Siberia and Clemens faces many difficulties during it. So he eventually joins Semyon and Anastasis and introduces himself with a false name. Finally, the spring of 1950 starts and Clemens keeps walking with his Siberian companions. On the other hand, Lisa can't stop thinking of her father and longs for him. One day, while traveling on a raft with Semyon and Anastasis, a storm hits the river. Clemens tries to handle the raft, but unfortunately, Semyon falls into the river and hits a rock. Having no other choice but to save his companion from drowning, Clemens jumps into the river and successfully rescues Semyon. On the other hand, Anastasis reaches the shore and takes all the supplies to a safe place. When he goes through Semyon's pack, he feels greedy to see his gold and intends to steal it. A moment later, Semyon and Clemens arrive there, and Semyon inquires Anastasis about his pack. At first, Anastasis lies to him that it sank in the river, but Semyon finds it in the cottage. He suspects that Anastasis will steal his gold, so he knocks Clemens out and uses his pistol to shoot Anastasis to death. When Clemens gains consciousness, he's shocked to see Anastasis' corpse. He becomes enraged with Semyon but continues his journey with him. The two of them keep walking in the snow and reach a point where Semyon can no longer continue. Clemens offers to help him by carrying his pack, but since Semyon has trust issues, he suspects that Clemens wants to steal his gold. In his fury, he throws Clemens down a slope. Meanwhile, Lisa has a nightmare about her father. She wakes up petrified and is comforted by her mother. When Clemens wakes up, he's pursued by wolves. He tries to save his life and climb a tree, but just then a nomadic herder rescues him. He takes Clemens to his camp where his companions look after Clemens and heal him. Among them, a widowed girl named Irina falls in love with Clemens. She successfully seduces him and the two make love. Meanwhile, the Soviets capture Semyon and Kamenev is informed about it. He arrives to interrogate Semyon, but before he could do so, Semyon hangs himself to death. One day, a herd of the nomadic tribe finds out that the Soviets are looking for Clemens. He returns to the camp, and after celebrating the birth of his newborn son, he informs Clemens about it. Since Clemens is recovered completely, he understands that it's not safe for the tribe to keep him anymore, so he decides to leave. The next morning, he bids farewell to the herders, and before leaving, gives Irina a goodbye kiss. He takes a dog along with him, given to him by the tribe. The summer of 1951 starts when Clemens runs into a logging operation due to his dog. The inspector of the operation suspects him and intends to report him. However, he has to send his freight train, so he uses Clemens as a brakeman to make sure no tramps hitch the ride. After the train leaves, he informs Kamenev about Clemens. Kamenev leads the Soviets to the stopping point of the train to capture Clemens. Clemens tries to escape, but Kamenev encounters him. His dog attacks Kamenev and mauls him, infuriating Kamenev, who shoots the dog to death. This gives enough time for Clemens to escape, so he jumps onto a moving train to evade the soldiers. Despite escaping successfully, Clemens feels betrayed and mourns the loss of his dog. Over the next year in 1952, Clemens makes his way to Central Asia. He wanders around in a market in search of food and then comes across a mosque. When he addresses his God, a Polish Jew meets him and offers to help. Just then, a man stops the German Clemens and routes him to the Soviet police headquarters. Meanwhile, the Jew takes Clemens to his house and offers him great hospitality, knowing despite the fact that Clemens was a German soldier. On the other hand, Kamenev heads out for Central Asia in his car. The Polish Jew arranges a passport and travel permit for Clemens, who then makes his way to the Iranian border. After Clemens leaves, Kamenev pays a visit to the Polish Jew's house, inquiring him about Clemens. However, before Kamenev could acquire any information, the Jew experiences a heart attack and immediately dies. Meanwhile, Clemens' truck is stopped due to a landslide, after which he starts walking across the border. Finally, he's allowed to cross the Iranian border, but just then he sees Kamenev walking towards him from the opposite side. Clemens feels heartbroken and decides to turn back, but just then Kamenev steps aside, allowing Clemens to pass and declaring that it is my victory. It turns out that as soon as Clemens steps foot in Iran, he's believed to be a Russian spy and is imprisoned in the Tehran federal prison. Before sentencing him to death, his uncle, Budrex, who works in Turkey, is called to identify him. After Budrex recognizes Clemens, he's released and finally reaches Germany at Christmas. As he arrives at his home, he sees his family through the window leaving for church. The film ends with Clemens going to the church and reuniting with his family. The movie has a rating of 7.3 on IMDb. I hope you all liked this video. If yes, then make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel for more movie recaps.